get started. And hello to everyone who's posting in the chat, Calbright and San Diego, Peralta. It's great to have everyone joining us today for an update on what's going on with the Technology Center and the Systemwide technology portfolio. So this is the first in the new academic year in our monthly series of webinars. And I wanted to start off with a general topic session so that we can talk a little bit about what we have going on and scheduled for the upcoming fiscal and academic year. So I'm going to touch on a whole lot of different information, and you'll actually be hearing from me more than I anticipated because one of my team members had a family emergency today. So I'll be providing updates on a number of topics that include, first of all, we're going to hear from the Vice Chancellor for Digital Innovation and Infrastructure, Barney Gomez. He's on the line. We'll talk a little bit about fraudulent applications and the CCC Apply spam filter, which I know is a hot topic for everyone right now. We'll talk about the CCC Data Warehouse and some updates that have been made recently. And then we'll provide additional information on our in-progress application data out of CCC Apply that's now available, what's going on with OpenCCC and our CCC ID account system, MyPath fall updates, and Scenic, and then we'll close with contact information for follow-up questions and comments. So I'll go ahead and get started by welcoming Barney and talking a little bit about the student digital touchpoints. For those of you who may not have seen this graphic before, this was presented by the Chancellor's Office to the Board of Governors back in January to show the student digital touchpoints across the EdTech portfolio and into the local college and district architecture. So Barney is engaged with all of these different topics and dots and lines here on this slide. It gets pretty complicated when you start looking at the infrastructure that's in place, the data that's being stored and made available. You overlay that with accessibility and security, and there's a whole lot going on at any given time. So I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to Barney now to talk a little bit about some of the priorities and updates from a Chancellor's Office perspective. So Barney, go ahead and take it away.
Thank you so much, Jennifer, and thank you for having me and allowing me this opportunity this morning. So first and foremost, I just want to, wish everybody a happy day today, and then hope that everybody's doing well in light of all our circumstances that we're having to deal with. So I do apologize for not being able to be on the phone today. Actually was scheduled out of the office today, but I didn't have my laptop with me. But I'm happy to be here and chat with you folks for a few minutes. And just to kind of briefly go over some of the efforts that we're looking into and that we're continuing our efforts as we, in light of our budget crisis and situation that we are in, there's still a lot of effort that, we're trying to look for money on how we can keep moving forward. So one of those, one of the, efforts that we're still working on is, I know we've mentioned it before and I know we've talked about it before. It may seem like that we keep talking about it, but nothing happens. But we're still looking at Common ERP, and we're still looking at single sign-on. Some of the other things that we're looking at with respect to all our dashboards that we have out there for our constituent folks is our data harmonization / portal rationalization effort that we have going on. We're trying to take a look at all our various dashboards that we have to see where it makes sense, if it makes sense, both technically and business-wise, to consolidate the dashboards. We have a lot out there, and I know I've heard it from various folks, and I've heard it from the system and other people that there's quite a bit out there. So we are looking heavily into what can be done with respect to trying to get down to a single dashboard. So that's one area that we're very, very busy with right now, especially with our consultants and our folks that we work with, Education Results Partners, WestEd, the folks that we're heavily involved with around the dashboards, some of the dashboards that we have up and running. Common ERP, again, there is an effort that's underway right now with myself and a few folks, the 4 CIS folks, where we're trying to basically see what we can make happen. So without going into a lot of detail, I'll keep it very high level. We're looking at potentially, doing some sort of an assessment and building some sort of roadmap and total cost of ownership with respect to what and why we would need a common ERP. What are the problems it's going to resolve in terms of data, the submission of the data, and what's happening with the data. So I do want to say that I know that we've talked about it before, and I've been talking about it, and I'm still talking about it, and I'm going to continue to keep talking about it until we can get something in place, because excuse me, I firmly believe that when we get to a situation like this and we can get to a common platform, then I think we can eradicate some of those problems. It doesn't mean that they're going to happen overnight, but over time, if we can at least get to a spot where we have a common platform, I think over time we can eradicate some of the problems that we continue to experience, especially in light of the synchronous learning that we have going on right now, the modality that we're in. I think it's even more important right now going forward to continue to try to see how we can leverage things that are in place, leverage or be leveraged, take advantage of the economies of scale. Do not build in silos, and try to build solutions that are common across our system. So that's again, I'm still continuing that effort, and there is an effort right now that I'm working with the 4CIS group around this to see how we can keep moving forward. Other efforts that we're continuing to work on, which we've made some great progress, and I'm sure I think Mark will talk about it, but because I don't want to steal his thunder, Mark Cohen will talk about it. But our CCC data lake and the data warehouse, we've made a lot of progress with respect to that. There's a lot of data marts standing behind the data lake now. We have the Jasper solution in place, the business intelligence software. We support the ODBC connection, JDBC connections, and we're working on our governance structure around the level of access and who has access for this. So, and that's really, really big, a lot of work right now that's been taking place in reference to this. Mark and company, along with Steve Klein, some of the folks did put together a process for just from an internal perspective around what it takes to basically gain access. So again, we're working on our governance structure around the level of access, the type of access, and who has access. The goal is for the data lake, data warehouse, the front end of everything, is that, it's my vision that I want to open this up to our constituents and the colleges that, a lot of the colleges already have access already. So it's my vision that, that we basically stand up a solution that allows folks to be able to go to the data warehouse using the business intelligence software or by way of ODBC or JDBC, that they have the ability to basically pull data, query data, that's from the various data marts that are sitting behind everything. So again, the governance is very crucial part to this effort, and it's something that's very challenging. As everybody knows, I'm sure everybody's dealt with governance before, so it'll still continue to be a challenge. That brings me to the Cradle to Career solution. So I'm sure everybody's heard about the Cradle to Career, which the governor's office is basically pushed for, and there was a trailer bill language that was effectuated early part of, I think it was January of 19 or late 19, early 20. I don't recall now. That's moving forward. Matter of fact, I sit on various committees for the governor's office with respect to this, along with a lot of other folks, a lot of the CSU, UC, the private segments, some of the other state agencies, Health and Human Services Agency, Labor and Workforce Agency sits on it as well too, and a slew of other folks. So the goal of this effort is to basically see how we can basically get student transcripts going from segment to segment, hence the term Cradle to Career, from start to finish, from, what happens as a student matriculates from the K-12 system into either our system and then beyond our system. The various types of data that's going to be put into this system, is our things that we're looking at from the community college system is our CTE data, our workforce and economic development data. We do a lot of work with EDD. We do a lot of work with social services. So our adult ed programs as well too is very important data that we're going to be using. As everybody knows, the community college system, our mission, in terms of what we do, it can vary quite a bit from the UC and or the private sectors or the CSU system. So our data is structured differently, and then our outcomes are measured differently as well too. And so So that's still a big effort that's going to keep moving forward. And you know, my guess is that that's going to probably come to fruition probably sometime late next year, early the following year. So, but you know, I'm happy to delve into this deeper with folks who want to talk to me more about it offline. I don't want to besiege, take hold of this meeting right now, but that's a high level. Some of the other efforts that we're still continuing on, we're still doing Scenic. I'm sure everybody's heard Scenic and Library Services Platform. We're continuing to move forward with that. In light of our budget crisis, yes, we do have a budget issue going on. Specifically, Library Services Platform, the contract ends at the end of this calendar year. The California Community League of California, CCLC, I forget what the acronym stands for now, Community College of California. They're going to be taking it over now. They will engage into a contract with Ex Libris going forward. So colleges will be advised on where they can pull money from, whether it's a CARES Act or not. I don't know. Our college finance facilities unit will basically be the ones to advise the colleges on where they can pull that money from going forward. CCC Apply, we're continuing to move forward and make our adjustments there. Again, CCC Apply is it's a legacy application. There's a lot of enhancements that have been done, a lot of good work done by the Tech Center folks. So, but there are some things I think that we can move forward with in terms of what should be done with CCC Apply going forward. I'm in contact with folks at the Tech Center, Tim Calhoun, and everybody around CCC Apply and our efforts and the changes that we keep working on. Which brings me to my next point, which is our grants and the grantees and our planning processes that we have in place. I'm not sure if many of you know, but we have a structure in place now that basically allows us to work with all our grantees around work plans going forward. So what we do is we identify all the work plans, we identify all the work to be done within those work plans. And as many of you know, I'm sure you may have heard me say this before, business drives technology. We don't drive technology for the sake of technology. In some cases, yes, I say we do, but for the most part, business has to drive it. So we're working very, very heavily with educational services folks, our workforce and economic development team, our CDC team, around what we have to do to basically make sure that we're meeting the goals and objectives of the grants that are out in force right now. So again, happy to have conversations further with folks as we look at this going further, but there's just a lot of work that we do. But every year we basically kick this off and we go into a grant planning, what I refer to as a grant planning session with our grantees around the work to be done. Some of the other things that I've done lately, I'm waiting on our legal folks. I put together 3 strategy documents around MOUs and our MOU processes. MOUs do take quite a bit of time, so it's my goal that if legal signs off on the particular documents that I put forward, our general counsel within the Chancellor's office, that we can probably get an MOU done much, much quicker than what we have been doing. And so I'm waiting for our legal folks to basically either hopefully buy off or continue to vet with them about making changes and putting these strategy documents in place, because as folks begin to come to us and asking us for our data, it's my goal that is, if we have to establish an MOU, that we basically refer folks to these particular policies around data, data strategy, data access, data management, data destruction, security. If they follow these policies, these 3 policies, and they're not very long. I think the compilation is probably maybe 20 pages between all 3 of them, 25 pages. If they follow the strategy, then an MOU should be very, very quick and easy to put into place. And as long as they follow and meet those standards, we should be able to put something in place fairly quickly. What else do I want to talk about? Stand by one second. I'm pulling out my notes, folks, so give me 1 second. In the meantime, any questions? I know I've been going fairly quick. I know we only have an hour, so I don't want to try to steal the whole time, but I'm pulling up one document real quick. But in the interim, is there any questions?
I don't see any questions in the chat. Does anyone have any questions? You want to put them in the chat? I know we're at about 200 participants, so I'm sure there are questions out there.
Okay, yeah, and one area that I wanted to cover as well too, that I know that it's been a big issue across the system, is our fraudulent emails. I'm sure folks at the Tech Center. Again, I don't want to steal their thunder, but I know it's been hot and heavy for me in terms of the fraudulent emails. We are, you know, if folks do recall, there was a point in time where I had sent out a memo system-wide about fraudulent email. In collaboration and working with the Tech Center, we put together an email that went out around fraudulent email. We're doing some updates around that, around the spam filtering. So expect a system-wide email that should be coming out within the next week to 2 weeks with some updates and some lessons learned, what we've learned around mitigating these issues going forward. So I still see there's quite a bit of issues still going on with that. So, but we do have some updates around the fraudulent component and the spam filtering in hopes to try to help mitigate these issues going forward. So that's an area that we're still very, very heavily involved in. Lastly, as a, you know, one other thing I think that's important is, you know, inside the Chancellor's office, we stood up an ITSM, Information Technology Service Management tool, ServiceNow. We stood up an internal component of it, and we're finalizing an external component. The impetus behind the external component was the NOVA solution. So all the colleges use the NOVA solution for grant tracking. It's my goal to basically open up a portal, public-facing portal for colleges to basically use and open up a ticket, especially when it comes to data requests, when it comes to NOVA issues, problems around NOVA and the grant tracking tool. We need to track this information. This information helps me when I go forward with the Department of Finance on why we need PYs. When I can basically show the numbers and show what it takes to basically open and close a ticket and the amount of time involved, the complexity involved, it's just all more information for myself to build a case when I move forward with the Department of Finance. I know it might seem meager at this point, given the crisis that we're in, but it doesn't mean I'm going to stop. So the more information I have to build a case, the better off I am. So
Barney, we have a couple of questions that have come in. One, you referenced a 20-page document, and Dan is wondering if that will be made available.
Yes, so it's a compilation of 3 documents. They equate to about 20 pages, 20 to 25 pages, and they cover various policy aspects. One is around security, and this is in relationship to an MOU. What I'm trying to do is basically, by these 3 policies, is get our general counsel to buy off and agree to the philosophy of following these principles, thereby concluding that if once an MOU goes forward, if folks follow this process, we shouldn't have to get into a lengthy process for MOUs. But yes, ultimately, once they are vetted and finalized, I am happy to share these and I can post them out. Because by all means, take them yourselves and use them. This is part of our enterprise strategy effort from the Chancellor's Office on setting standards for our system.
Excellent. Couple questions about the SSO initiative and whether that's around federated IDs across the system. You want to talk a little bit more about that?
Yeah, I mean, so everybody's probably heard me say it and talk about it. I know we've talked about it at CISWA. You know, it's the single sign-on solution, the federated solution. Okta is one of them. Okta is a bolt-on solution. It doesn't require a lot of re-architecting. I'm still trying to push that forward. I was very close and almost thought I had it, but then we were hit with the pandemic. So there's more to follow right now. It's kind of been on hold in light of the pandemic and the budget crisis that we're faced within the state of California. We are a state office. You know, our money does come from the Department of Finance by way of federal government. So both the general fund that we exploit as well as Prop 98 money. So more to follow on that. I'm happy to talk offline further about it if someone wants to chat with me.
There are a couple questions in here about the fraudulent application issue. That's our next topic, so I'm going to hold on those ones. But we do have a question about districts being hit with ransomware, and what is the team doing to help keep us safe?
So that's a great point, and I'm glad they brought it up. Yes, there's been some issues going on with ransomware across the system, various colleges. So my team is engaged as well as the CCC Technical folks are engaged, because I do have consultants on board that are helping with this. So what we do, we're looking, once we get through the process of determining how it happened and why it happened in terms of the exploits, some of the things that we're looking at, both in collaboration with the Tech Center folks, my team and their team, both teams basically are my teams, is trying to see what we can do and put into place from an architecture standpoint. For instance, are we doing multi-factor authentication? How are, in light of the modality that we're in, the synchronous learning that we're in, are folks using standard practices? Are they encapsulating their traffic across an IPsec tunnel? Are you opening up certain protocols or certain tools that are public facing, like for instance RDP? RDP should never be used out in front of the WAN on a public facing side at all, you know. So we're looking at the various standards and practices that we can basically help make sure that some of the colleges or districts are following to help mitigate this. But you know, I am aware of some colleges that have been breached. We have been in contact with them, but ultimately it is a local level matter, but it doesn't negate us to basically help put strategies and information out there so that they can follow. So
there was a question on that. Will we be sharing IOCs, IP addresses, exploits being used that were successful at the ransomware schools for other colleges to work to combat?
So if I understand the question, will we be sharing any of the detailed information on how they were exploited?
Yes. So that,
you know, that's an excellent question. And, you know, and I think that's a great reference point. I have asked one of the colleges to basically, if they can share some information. I'm waiting to hear. This particular college has a cybersecurity insurance. So ultimately, their first effort is they're going through their cybersecurity insurance. We are doing some oversight with them. Much like you pay for your car insurance, you pay for the premiums. Well, they pay premiums on this, and their cybersecurity team that's part of the insurance policy has to help them, guide them, and we'll do some oversight with them as well. If I can get some information, I will. Ultimately, the college has sole responsibility of whether they release it or not. I do agree that if we can get some of that info, I certainly will, and we'll certainly see what we can do about sharing it. So I hope that helps answer the question.
Yes, I think so. Next question.
I can't guarantee anything. I can't guarantee anything because it is a matter of privacy, you know, on the local level part.
Right.
But from lessons learned going forward, you know, perhaps maybe I may not get some of the very detailed information, but I might get some of the architecture, like I was referencing, around how VPN tunnels are established or how remote access is being done. Is there two-factor in place? What kind of host-based security is being done? What's their patching levels like? What kind of awareness training is going on? So, you know, certainly those are the things that we can certainly talk about and publish. And if I can get some of that detailed, I will.
Last question, what about system-wide training and possibly certification against social engineering, particularly with respect to faculty and non-IT staff? Anything in the works there?
That's excellent point. And, you know, honestly, I will say that no, that's not been in the works, but I will say that just, I've been inspired. I think that's a great question about how we bridge the gap between business and technology. What kind of training can we establish to you know, inform folks what technology is? Because, I mean, honestly, let's face it, without the use of an infrastructure in place, be it a computer or a local or wide area network that's in place, how's business going to get done? How are things going to get done? So I think that's an excellent comment, and I think I will, you know, whoever that said that, pose it out, have them reach out to me. I'd love to talk further about with whomever said that and see what we can come up with and collaborate with that person.
Excellent. Yeah, through the Technology Center, we do have a Securing the Human training that we offer. So we've got some additional resources on that front as well.
Perfect. Perfect.
And I know Joe Moreau said they're using it as well.
That's excellent. I also mentioned Scenic. You know, I mentioned library services. I mentioned Scenic, and I know probably Tim's on the phone as well too. I don't want to steal his thunder, but we are moving forward with a BCP. So the libraries, most recently that took place, California State Libraries and ourselves collaborated together on an advocacy letter going forward to the governor's office. We, in my opinion, we made a very strong case. We'll see what happens going forward. That is you know, Scenic has been keeping me awake at night because I'm concerned. We still have circuits that are out there. I'm sure Tim will delve further into that. So, but rest assured, I am continuing to battle for the money and seeing how we can get this money because in my opinion, I've made a very strong case as to why we need this. going forward. Of course, finance might think otherwise right now, or the governor's office that might think otherwise because of the synchronous learning that we're in right now. But at some point, we are going to be coming back, and it doesn't negate the fact that we need an infrastructure in place to support the environments going forward, and especially in light of the governor's bill about broadband that he just released as well too. It's ever so more important.
Excellent. Well, thank you so much for your time today. I know you were planning to be off, so any questions that come up, we are recording this session, and we'll make sure that those are documented. And if any other questions come up for Barney, we can make sure that they get answered as well. So Barney, thank you again for your time today. I appreciate it. I know you covered a whole lot of things that your team has going on, so many thanks for all of their efforts and your efforts in the leadership chair. So thank you, and have a great afternoon.
Thanks to everybody in the system, and thank you guys so much for having me. Thank you.
Thanks. So the next topic we have is actually related to what Barney was talking about, and that is the CCC Apply spam filter. So we launched our spam filter some time ago, and we continue in our efforts to combat fraudulent applications. We see spikes every once in a while specific to certain colleges. And as Barney mentioned, there was a white paper that went out in February talking about best email addresses and when they are given to students, whether it's at application or enrollment, and how best to set up those emails so they may be internally only and not useful for bad actors. The key that we're working around right now is to remove the incentives for bad actors. What we're seeing is for some of our colleges who've changed their local processes around email, providing emails to students, they're seeing changes in the hits that they're getting from fraudulent applications. The other thing that we're doing is with the spike that we've seen over the last several weeks, our support team has been proactively reaching out to colleges to make sure that they have a couple of things in place. There are standard spam blocking rules that have been implemented, and we're collaborating with college IT staff on other best practices. So as Barney mentioned, we're going to release the white paper again with some additional best practices around that. And yes, it seems, Dave, that every time we change something with our spam filter or with the way that we provide benefits to potential students, that the spammers are right behind us. And I know our security team has looked across the dark web and found references to ways to get around new things or to finally give up. So we're trying to stay ahead of it. With that being said, we have a machine learning model update in progress that's scheduled for a fall 2020 release, which, hello, we're in fall, it's September already, so that's coming quickly. We have a number of different things that are going to be put in place on that new model that have been brought to us from the field. Things that you all are seeing with regards to how bad actors are leveraging some of the email rules that are in place and some of the timers and things like that we have with regards to applications to get that learning model updated. Right now, the model has to be manually updated, and we're doing that on a regular basis. But for the winter spring release, we're going to a continuous learning model, and we're hoping that that will help even further. So this is going to be a kind of a net of options as we move forward to try and combat the fraudulent application issues. We will be moving forward with our spam meeting so we can talk more about what you all are seeing and how we might be able to support some of what you've got going. And we've got a lot of efforts going on. We've got multiple teams engaged in this. We've got the Technology Center security team. We've got our team at InterVision who does our Amazon Web Services hosting and support. And we've got additional contacts out in the world who are assisting with this as well. And then we're asking for your participation as college representatives in moving this forward. So this is specific to CCC Apply user group, which I'll touch on here in a little bit. But we ask that if you all have ideas and you're having specific concerns, that you engage in that process as well. So This is an active update that's happening, and we are working with our colleges on a number of different fronts. We encourage you to reach out and have our support team assist you if you have specific problems. We are working to block specific domains, and they're temporary domains that were created, as was said in the chat yesterday. So we're working on that on a continuous basis and encourage you to reach out. We know that this is a concern. Our numbers are up actually on applications for fall, and that's removing the fraudulent applications from the numbers, but we're not necessarily seeing that translate into enrollment numbers at many colleges. So we're working on that with the Chancellor's office as well, hoping to encourage students to not only apply, but make it through to enrollment, and that those are actual students who aren't just taking advantage of some of the freebies we offer with, unlimited storage and access to software. So we'll continue to move forward on this. If you're interested in engaging with the team, with the user group, I will go ahead and put an email address in the chat that you can reach out to be part of that team. I'm gonna type that in right now. Jane Linder, who is our product manager for our student success suite products, that's CCC Apply, OpenCCC, and MyPath, is the person to reach out to on this front. She's not on the call today, but please send her an email if you'd like to engage with our subcommittee on this topic. Next up, we have our CCC Data Warehouse update, and I'm going to introduce Mark Cohen, our product manager for our infrastructure and data team. And go ahead, and Mark, if you would like to take it away.
Thank you. Can you see my screen?
I can. I'm going to stop my video, and you can take it away. Thank you so much for being here today.
Great, thank you. I'm the product manager with the Tech Center for the infrastructure and data projects, including CCC Data, Superglue, and eTranscript California, providing an update on CCC Data. CCC Data provides the necessary infrastructure to the system to connect data from various systems into an enterprise data warehouse. The CCC Data projects are part of the Data Services Program initiative from the Chancellor's office. CCC Data provides access to the data to institutional researchers at colleges, districts, and the Chancellor's office, where the critical data could be used to support institutional decision-making aligned with the vision for success. I wanted to take you through a little bit of an update on where we are with the system and our recent release. As far as an overview of what CCC Data is, it's made up of 4 key components. The first being a set of data pipelines that connect a variety of source databases with the platform, and these serve to extract, transform, and load the data into the data lake. The data lake, which is where the data can be persisted as it comes from the source, storing changes over time for data mining and auditing purposes. A data warehouse, which acts as a structured source of master data that could be used to generate the data marts, reports, and analytics that the end users need. And a report server and connections directly to the data warehouse, which provides researchers at colleges, districts, and the Chancellor's office with access to the data for reporting and analytics. And over time, this will include other elements, which I'll discuss a little bit later in the presentation. As far as the data supported in CCC Data, today, the data warehouse consists of CCC Apply data, including the application, non-credit app, international app, promise grant, and the LGBTQ data. Data from MyPath, multiple measures, the college's Canvas system, as well as COCI and CID. We're currently in the process of bringing the data from MIS in, which will be shared with colleges once data governance has been put in place. We've also been asked to bring in data from CalPass Plus, as well as Launchboard and Nova, which we're currently working on. And so this is what is available in the data lake, and then I'll talk a little bit about what is available through the data warehouse to the institutional researchers. Taking a little bit of a closer look at the platform, so the left I show the source databases as they exist, and the data pipelines that serve to discover the data. These data pipelines run nightly or more often based on need, and bring the data to the data lake. with the data lake serving to store the data, preserving it as it exists in the original database, while adding value through the aggregation of incremental updates, which could later be leveraged by researchers. The data from the data lake is fed to the data warehouse, which enables the researchers at colleges and districts to perform analysis across their data, which is unencrypted, which is available unencrypted. It's encrypted at rest and in transit. But the data warehouse also makes the data both limited to the colleges by MIS code to assure they're only seeing their data, as well as make the full set of data available to the researchers at the Chancellor's office. The data warehouse also leverages Redshift Spectrum, which is a technology that provides structured data from data in the data lake, collectively serving as the data warehouse. And this makes up a model consistent with the Gartner, with Gartner's logical data warehouse model, which is a model that we have followed in the development of this with recommendations from the Gartner group. The data warehouse report server serves as an optional method for researchers to interact with data from the data warehouse, providing the ability to query and download these data from the data sources. And then the colleges will also have the option of connecting directly to the data warehouse, bypassing the need for the report server, so they can connect their own local BI and analytic tools to the data warehouse, or connect to local data warehouses. So this report server Barney was referencing, we had recently launched a week ago. We launched the report server to the colleges and districts. We already have more than 60 colleges live in the few days since we've launched, and currently working to set up the rest of the colleges. The data warehouse report server provides the researchers with access to the data. That access is secured through the use of two-factor authentication, which requires a time-sensitive password generated by an authenticator app to make sure that the people entering are who they are believed to be. The researchers within the data warehouse report server may access the LGBTQ reports, which have long been available, as well as reports they've created, and set up ad hoc reporting from the existing available data sources. And this includes the tables from CCC Apply application, international application, promise grant, and multiple measures placement service. We're now completing the work to enable researchers to have that direct ODBC, JDBC access to the data warehouse. That's something that we'll be making available in our next release, which I'll be talking about. And that allows them to connect their preferred BI or analytic tools. We're also working to expand the set of data from the data lake that are made available to colleges, to researchers at colleges through the data warehouse and data warehouse report server. As far as accessing the data warehouse report server, this is developed for institutional researchers at the colleges and districts. In order to access, to gain access, if it's not already set up, that's done by sending an email to the Tech Center Enabling Services College Relationship Manager. If you don't know who your college relationship manager is, an email to this address will make sure it's routed to the right individual who will reach out in response. Ultimately, this email should come from the institutional research lead or department VP. If the request comes from elsewhere at the college or district office, the college relationship manager will respond and connect with the appropriate individual at the college or district that could approve the request, if it should be approved. Request for access from staff at the Chancellor's office is sent directly to myself as the product manager for CCC Data. And once we receive it, Steve Klein, the director for CCC Data, will message the information that I gathered to Vice Chancellor Barney Gomez, who will approve the request or not. And we don't set up access without that approval, so that we make sure that we have a single point of approving all requests coming from the Chancellor's office or outside the college or district. As far as release update of what's coming up, as I mentioned, on August 27th, we launched the college and district access to the data warehouse report server, and that has the full set of CCC Apply and multiple measures data within it, and with that access secured by two-factor authentication. And as I mentioned, I think we're up to 64, 65 colleges already set up with accounts. Later this month, we'll be launching a pilot of direct connection to the data warehouse. And this will enable researchers at colleges to connect their own tools. We're initially launching this as a pilot, which will be reaching out to some colleges for participation. And then once we conclude that pilot, likely after several weeks, we will make this available to researchers at any of the colleges or districts that are interested in this level of access. And then the team is continuing to push on to the next release, which adds additional sources of data to the data warehouse and data warehouse report server, specifically adding the full set of data from COCI and CID to the data warehouse and report server, as well as enabling colleges to opt into having their Canvas data included in the data warehouse. And then we're working beyond that, identifying the releases that will take place through the rest of the fiscal year that will support additional data sources coming into the data warehouse, as well as looking to leverage additional technologies as we continue to expand the CCC Data Platform, including the use of data marts, which we are exploring as appropriate. That brings me to kind of a quick overview on where we are with the platform and the recent release, and we can take questions.
There were a couple questions in the chat that Steve's been answering. Are there any additional questions from anyone?
Well, if there are any questions after the fact, please feel free to reach out to me, and I could help get you to the right person or respond as appropriate.
Another question just popped up. Will there be a point of which we can view data across colleges to see how we fit in with other schools?
The data warehouse is designed to segment the data by college so that colleges or districts are only seeing the set of data appropriate to them. The Chancellor's Office has access to the data across all the colleges. If that's something that could possibly be set up as a data mart, but right now we don't have direction to do so.
Okay. And it looks like there were requests to get this information out on a couple of listservs that Steve replied to. So I think we're good on that front. Other questions can go to Mark directly. Mark, you want to put your email address in the chat as well?
Sure.
If there are any additional questions, and then we'll move on to our next topics here. Thank you again, Mark. This I know has been great. And as Barney mentioned, data governance has been a big effort. And there's a question about security with the data that is sent to the data warehouse. Do you want to talk at all about the security protocols?
Sure. The ETLs that we use, the data pipelines that we use, are securely transferring data into the data lake, and then access to the data lake or data warehouse is managed, as I said, through the entry point through the data warehouse report server is secured through two-factor authentication with the data secured in the connections to the browser, and then access to the direct connection will be made through a VPN that will be established between the college or district office and the tech center's data center.
That looks like it. It says encrypted of the data at restand storage security.
The data is encrypted at rest and in transit. I'm not
rest.
sure.
Okay.
Jennifer, just a reminder of time.
Yes, I'm on that right now. I hope everyone can keep up with the next few slides. So we'll move right along here.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mark. The next thing we have, and I realized I didn't introduce myself at the beginning. I'm Jennifer Coleman, and I'm the director of our Student Success Suite, student-facing products. And Steve Klein is my counterpart over our infrastructure and data and curriculum management systems. And he's been in the chat answering questions. I want to talk a little bit about our CCC Apply in Progress applications. There has been a whole lot of conversation over many, many years about getting access to student contact information for students who've started an application but have not yet submitted it. And I want to let all of you know that we now have a report available for download from the CCC Apply Report Center. And if you already have access to the Report Center, you can find that report in the Report Center under In Progress Apps. And if you don't, you can get help with access by sending an email to staff support CCCTC, as it's shown there on the slide. And also Roberto put that in the chat a little bit ago, if you want to copy it out of the chat. So we are working with the Chancellor's Office, with Paul Feast, our Vice Chancellor of Marketing and Communications, around building up our enrollments across the system. And this is one way to do it. Students who showed interest but may be stuck at some point, who with a little bit of outreach and support might end up as fully enrolled students. So we wanted to make you all aware of this report. The announcement also went out to the Marketing and Public Relations team today, so you'll probably start hearing about it a little bit on that front as well. But reach out with questions about access to that email, and let us know. The students are added pretty much as soon as they begin the application. So they set up their account in OpenCCC and they move into the application. They become part of the in-progress application database. It's removed from that once they submit their application. So it's the window between starting any kind of input beyond the account creation process and the pushing the submit button. So each one could include different types and levels of information. What a lot of requests we're getting are coming in as student name and email address for outreach purposes. And so, but it may have other things depending on how far a student got through the application. We are working on other ways to deliver this, and we'll continue to be working on that in terms of API to automatically populate things like a Salesforce CRM tool or other CRM tools. So more to come on that front, but for now, it's at least available for download and use right away. The next thing I wanted to talk about is just an announcement. We are now at 10 million accounts via our CCC ID account system through OpenCCC. And just a kind of a sneak peek into an update that will be coming in the spring regarding new account creation and recovery options. And that will get rid of some of our security question prompts, and we will be working on verification of contact information provided, cell phone number, email address, multi-factor authentication for account creation. And so watch for that coming in the spring. We hope to streamline the process and continue to make the CCC ID a helpful identifier as the unique student identifier across our system. This will also be part and has been part of discussions around the Cradle to Career effort that Barney mentioned as well. As we move through our CCC Apply in-progress applications, our updates to OpenCCC, all of the things that have been going on, I want to talk a little bit about what we're doing in our support and stakeholder engagement front. And so, Roberto, are you on the call?
Yes, I'm here, Jennifer.
I'm going to introduce Roberto Fuentes. He's the our support manager, and he's going to talk a little bit about our new support forum.
Yeah, hi everybody. So we have a new public forum. We previously had, it continues to be ccctechnology.info. Can you pull up ccctechnology.info, Jennifer?
I'll stop and pull it up and get it there. Hold on. Or if you can share too, I believe.
Okay.
You have it open?
Yeah, let me share my screen. All right, can you guys see my screen?
Yes, thank you.
Awesome. Yeah, so this is our staff help desk here. We have a staff and student help desk, but for this conversation, we'll focus on the staff help desk. So anytime that, you know, colleges, you guys might have a question or like to share an idea, or might want to just have some share ideas amongst your guys' peers, we have this platform here, ccctechnology.info, where, let's say, for instance, if you guys have a question about any of these products in here, like the Promise Grant for our students, you guys can come in here and look at questions that have already been asked by most of your peers. You can see FAQs on the bog fee waiver. You guys can see all kinds of information that has been generated throughout years. And what we find is that we get thousands of visits per month on this website, but we might get, like, you know, 10 to 40 questions posted a week or something like that. So what we're finding is that a lot of our users are coming in here and finding the answers to their questions, which is extremely helpful. And what we really like about this platform now is that we're going to start using, this is our first phase of releasing this specific vanilla forums, but we're going to start using this, this tool so we can try to ask you guys, the users of our services, like what features would you guys like to see in upcoming releases for the application, for the report center, or the spam filter. And the good thing about here is we're monitoring this website 24 hours, Monday through Friday, 8 to 5 p.m. We are monitoring this website. So when you guys are looking for staff support, the same people who are working behind the scenes, answering you guys' questions when you guys are submitting help desk tickets are the same people who will be providing you information in this platform as well. And also our product managers, we have are in here, they're active in here. And the good thing about this is you guys can share your ideas, and that information, you know, you guys can vote it up. You guys can say, hey, you know, I like this idea. And then the great thing about that is it's a public forum, so anybody can access this. You guys do have to set up an account if you guys want to post a question, but anybody can come in here and scroll through here and just try to see what kind of content is already on there. You might find a question that or you might see something that hasn't been asked or an idea that hasn't been shared. This gives you guys the opportunity to share your idea amongst your peers. And it's really easy to use. It's really, when you want to post a new discussion or a new question, you could come in here and select out of all the categories that we provide support for. Like for instance, CCC MyPath, you know, it's as simple as coming in here, sharing your idea. The great thing about this too is that when you put it in the category, you can put this in the category and that conversation will get posted underneath that specific category. So what that allows is for other folks that come in here, they'll be able to see your idea or they'll be able to see your question, and you are helping your peers answer their questions that you might have already for them. As well, we do have all these products in here that we are providing end user support for. We're still developing, this is our first phase. We're still developing and adding more products that we're gonna be supporting, but as well, you can also get in contact with the Enabling Services Department in here, get in contact with your CRMs like Mark was going over earlier. If you guys want to schedule a demo for a new service, a new product, you can contact your implementation team in here. And these folks are in here following these categories. So anytime you guys post a question or an idea, this will go directly to those folks. So they are going to be on top of your guys' questions and interacting with you guys. And so any kind of support questions or ideas that you guys want to share, please share them here. As well, if you guys need technical support, post it in here, and then we can continue to provide support for you guys, and you guys can engage with one another.
Excellent. Thank you, Roberto. What Roberto showed will actually form the basis of some asynchronous feedback that we're going to be collecting. So one of the things that we will do is we are doing is bulking up our user groups. And so these used to be steering committees. They've kind of morphed over the last few years. Our CCC Apply user group and our MyPath user group meetings are coming, and we are working towards focused pilot testing by stakeholders and students, but also leveraging the vanilla forums options for engagement with students and faculty and staff. Things like upvoting and enhancement requests and those kinds of things, so that we can make sure that our user base is connected and that we are gathering feedback. So watch for more of that. If you're interested in participating, please reach out to, on these two groups specifically, or in pilot testing, please reach out to Jane Linder. I put her email in the chat a little bit ago. The next topic we have is a real quick update on what we have going for MyPath. We have 5 minutes, and Mike, we have Tim's scenic update to come to. So I know you can talk fast. We'll go ahead and just give a sneak peek into what's coming for fall.
Yeah, thanks. So I'll get through this in about 30 seconds here. So I just want to touch on 3 things really quick, some high points for MyPath. We are moving forward with the SIS integrations. They are at the point of testing. So that's pretty exciting for us. Just a reminder for anybody who may have forgotten the 3 initial fields that we'll be integrating or providing integration opportunities for in MyPath are orientation status, ed plan status, and admission status. We're going to make these available at some point, probably later this fall, early winter, within the pilot environment, if you'd like to start playing with some rules and testing how you can improve your students' onboarding experience within MyPath based on its new ability to interact with those fields in your SIS. So for orientation, you'll have the ability to both read from and publish to that field from within MyPath. And then for ed plan and admissions, you'll be able to actually pull the status of those fields from the SIS and use them to update the onboarding pathway. The other 2 things, kind of on an even shorter term note, that we have coming are the reporting. So this is sort of like activity metrics for your students within your MyPath account. The MyPath infrastructure components for this reporting are done now. And we are working with the CCC data team to get that data stored in the data warehouse, which will then make it available within the report center, and we'll be providing some reports right out of the box that you can access to see what your students are doing in CCC MyPath. And then lastly, we are actively working, even in the current sprint, on the MyPath and international application integration, and that will be released this fall as well. So if you have any applications coming in from international students, if you'd like to leverage, for example, the document gathering functionality to help those students, that will be made available here shortly. And I think that's it.
Excellent. Thank you, Mike. Now we have Tim Calhoun, a little bit about CNIC and what's going on to future-proof the network.
Well, many of you may not know. Many of you may know. Many of you may not know where our internet comes from for the community colleges, but CNIC, which stands for the Corporation for Education Network Initiatives in California, great acronym, operates the California Research and Education Network. It's 3,800 miles of fiber optic backbone that runs the length of California and connects all of education in California to the world. We working with CNIC and the Chancellor's Office, we manage 322 circuits that connect the community college campuses and centers to that backbone. What we've been experiencing over the last 5 to 7 years is that bandwidth demand is increasing exponentially by over 1/3 compounded annually. And so we're, and also many of our sites, as we came out of the recession, many of our sites, the last recession, many of our sites lacked sufficient backup circuits. So if their primary circuit going to the campus, somebody with a backhoe plows through the circuit, that we have a backup circuit in place that can service the campus and take over the traffic immediately. So our goal is to future-proof the network by upgrading that capacity. Next slide, please. So currently, 257 of the 322 circuits have been upgraded since 2017. We currently have 34 circuit upgrades that have been ordered, and those are moving forward. But our challenge is, as Barney mentioned earlier, we have a funding challenge with CNIC, and we need to secure more funding to continue these upgrades. This year, because of the funding challenge, we are only upgrading circuits that are nearing saturation. So circuits that basically just can't take any more traffic. And so we're upgrading those circuits. We have identified 9 circuits that are approaching that point. And we're only replacing end-of-life equipment. And so the Chancellor's Office, Barney mentioned, he's submitting a budget change proposal that will help us continue our upgrades. So that's a quick report on what's going on with CNIC. Oh, Jennifer, you're on mute.
Yes, so excellent. Thank you very much, Tim, for that update. The last thing we have here is just thank you all for attending. I believe we're not quite on time. We might be a minute over. I wanted to provide this email address, crms@ccctechcenter.org. and make sure that everyone knows if you have additional questions regarding implementations or product updates, you can reach out to that one email address. You'll get in touch with your college relationship manager who will direct your questions to the right place. And yes, Tim is rocking the quarantine beard. It's an ongoing check to see how that's looking. So thank you all for being here this afternoon, and we hope you have a great day. And let us know if you have any questions or if we can support you in any of the efforts you have going at your local colleges. So thank you so much.